Guys, I have the perfect solution for any of you that love to work out, but you want to make recovery a priority within your fitness routine. Our new sponsor, Bellis Footwear, came to life when 3 footwear industry veterans set out to find a better footwear recovery solution for athletes of all levels. After 2 years of extensive research and testing, TriMotion Tech and FoMotion Formula were born. This technology and proprietary 3X density foam provides exactly what your feet need at each part of the foot strike motion, from supportive heel contact and great arch support through toe off to the next step. These guys are right down the street from Bad Guy Inc. Studios. You are going to love them. Bellis Footwear provides both stability and flexibility that work together for incredible recovery. So give the gift of recovery this holiday season. Head on over to VellisFootwear.com or just click on the link below. And by the way, save 30% this holiday season when you use the code Uncle Chael at checkout. I talked with Ariel yesterday. I went on Ariel's program, and Ariel had a couple of guests already. So when you're waiting for the program, you're hearing a little bit of them, and I came on the backside of Glover Teixeira. And what a gentleman. Right? I mean, people know that, and you would say that about Glover, but when you're up against it, when you did not get what you want, it does, guys, that doesn't end when you're 8 years old. Okay, by the time you're 18 years old, you start to adjust and act differently when you don't get what you want. You may not throw a fit, you may not be a brat, but it bothers you inside the same as it did when you're a little kid. You go 28, 38, 48. That doesn't change. There's some things that don't change. You pretend that they do. You act like they do. It's called maturing. What you show on the outside isn't the same as the inside. And so when this happened to Glover, everything that he went through, and he remained a gentleman. And I got to give that same praise to Prohaska. I have been really surprised. And possibly this great attitude theory backs up a little bit further and started with Adesanya, and it passes on to Kayla Harrison. Like, I really don't remember a time in our sport where we've seen people behaving so politely, including when it doesn't go their way. And maybe I should throw Francis into that mix. Francis is in the first public and big and year-long dispute. He's never raised his voice. He's never made any threat. He's never used profanity. And there is something about this where you can kind of sit back and observe and then be pleased, right? You give an applause to MMA, but one of the things that Glover did talk about when he got off of himself and what's going on with his situation, he weighs in on Pereira. And he said that he would like Pereira. Ariel corrected me on how to sell it. I'm saying Pereira wrong. It's Pereira. So I'm trying to think of the way Ariel told me to say it versus the way that I say it. But he wanted Alex to fight Adesanya next. This is what Glover says, I would like for Pereira to fight Adesanya next. Now, I've got to sit back and wonder why. Why do you want that? That is the hardest opponent. Not only is that the hardest opponent, in Chael's opinion, I just saw the contest, and if it was 21 minutes long, if it was in the 5th round, 4 of those rounds and 20 of those minutes went to Izzy. Don't think you have to correct me. I know the judges officially had it 3-1, but you do see my point. You see where that's a really hard fight. Why would you want your guy to have a really hard fight? And a lot of times that question's real easy because that's where the championship's at. My guy's worked hard. He's got here, and that's what he has. But that's not what's going on here. Alex already has it. So I do wonder why did Glover want that? I don't have an answer, by the way. If you think like there's going to be some grand theme here, I don't have it. I just noticed it's a commonality. Take Khabib by example. Khabib's guy, Islam, is the champion. Khabib wants him to fight Volkanovski, who's ranked in front of him in the pound-for-pound rankings. Oh, by the way, Khabib then wanted a plan B put in place, which was Benny DeRouche versus Dustin Poirier on the same card. And the only reason that Khabib wanted DeRouche versus Poirier on that same card is in case something happens to Volkanovski, so you can grab one of these hammers and bring him up. He wants his guy to take on the absolute best guys. which is a commonality that we hear all the time, right? But not when the guy's champion. Usually somebody hits the brakes and you're finding reasons not to do it. And Adesanya Pereira, for me, it's interesting where we go from here. I can only imagine what Pereira's motivation is. I can't relate to it. But I think I can identify it and therefore understand that it's his. I mean, here from this perspective, Pereira wants to change sports. He wants to cut a whole bunch of weight. I mean, just getting to 185 is really hard. Oh, by the way, when he gets there, he wants to do whatever it is he has to do to get to the championship match, which is against, by the way, a guy that he's beaten not once but twice. I mean, I really do bring that to you, right? If the roles were reversed and Adesanya came over to this sport, right? If Pereira and Adesanya, but you switched them. Pereira got here first. Pereira was champion. Adesanya comes through. He's got to clean out the field. To get to a guy who had beaten him twice and he wants to show that he could beat him would be easier to relate to. I don't fully know that I get, from a personal standpoint, what drove Alex, but I know it did. I know it was real. I know he wanted it. I know he sacrificed tremendously. I know he worked hard to get it. Okay, great, but here we are. Why would he want to do it again? Ariel attempted to answer that question for me by telling me it's huge, it's big money. Okay, that answer will work and I will accept that. I do think that that's really big, and I do think the way participation works in the pay-per-view, I think that he's right. I don't disagree. I just think there's another side to this story. It was believed going into this contest, if Adesanya went down, Adesanya would get the immediate rematch. He's the greatest. He's the most dominant champion. He's cleared out the field. He's beat it a second time. He's getting ready to go his third time through. Of course, if he stumbles, he gets to try again. For sure, that seems to make sense, unless Pereira doesn't want it to. And this is my argument. We're going to be left with guessing if I'm right, because this was never tested. This was never taken to the media. If Pereira is to identify Adesanya as his most difficult challenge, and a fighter has a job, which is to make the most money against the easiest guy at all times. At absolute all times, you want to make sure that you find a guy that you can beat. Now, of course, that's hard to do when you get to this level, but it's still your objective. And this was tested, by the way, before you think this is just Chael's theory, this was done on a season of The Ultimate Fighter. Roy Nelson called out Kimbo, wanted to get rid of him and get him done in the very first round. And Dana was going, that's not your job. Your job as a contestant, when you have the power to call out, is to look across the field, see who the easiest guy is, and call him out. A lot of fighters were doing the opposite. I'm calling him out because it's the hardest match and I want to test myself right now. And Dana's like, that's silly. Dana's right. That's silly. Your job in The Ultimate Fighter is advancement. Get to the next round. So if you have an option of doing it against a lighter opponent, of course you would choose that. There's nothing shameful. There's no bravado that comes in the place of that. That just makes sense, but a lot of guys didn't do it. Now, I share this with you because if Pereira was to look at the field and go, man, Adesanya is the hardest guy, that's the only guy that can get over him. If that was to come to his conclusion, Pereira could come out very strongly to the audience and let the world know they are now 3-0. The world does not know that those two kickboxed. The world does not know that they kickboxed twice. The world does not know that they fought a total of 3 times. 15% of us, which represents all of you guys and me, we're in that 15%. Of course we know. And then we take for granted that the little old lady in Iowa knows. We make our living and the industry is built and the lights stay on because of the little old lady in Iowa that comes across something interesting and stays there on her channel. And I say that to you because if Pereira was to really bang that drum, if he was to come out and declare it 3-0, this is settled. This is settled business. 3 different contests, all the same result, 2 different rule sets. Me. I think it would be hard to get number 4. At least it would slow the momentum down to getting number 4. And another great thing that Pereira could do is to just go after someone else. If Pereira wanted to come out again, he's identified Adesanya is the hardest guy. He knows that his job is to keep a hold of that belt. all that Pereira would have to do is to come out and say, I am going to fight the winner of Whitaker versus Paulo Costa. For example, if he came out and he made that claim, it will bring to a screeching halt the train that is the rematch. But Pierre's not done any of those things. He doesn't care if you know that it's 3-0. He doesn't care if you know this dates back a decade. He does not care if you know I'm the one. 2 different sports. He just doesn't seem to care. He will fight Adesanya next, it appears. I just wonder as a guy, I haven't had Pereira's success. When I tell you I don't know, it's not like a condescending backhand. I truly don't know what would drive you to motivate you to want to do that. I also don't know that I'm big on the idea that Pereira is ever going to go back to 185 pounds. And this was another disagreement that Ariel and I had. Now, Ariel took real issue with this. Took real issue that I said Pereira's next fight is going to be at 205 pounds. Well, I can't lock in. Like, time will tell. This is just Chael's belief, right? X amount of time is going to go by, and he's going to get on a scale, and it's either going to say 185 at scratch weight for a title defense, or it's not. I just come to that conclusion because this part I can personalize, and this part I do know. It is not just physical to make that weight cut. Not to that extent. Not to that extreme. You have to mentally be fully committed to it. They both have to come together. It is an extremely trying and difficult thing to do. You won't meet a lot of people in life, and you're not one of them, that's ever been hungry. They'll tell you, you'll say it all, you'll say, Chael, I was hungry yesterday. Goddamn, I couldn't wait to get my... There's a difference in being hungry and wanting something to eat. The same thing goes with dehydration. I'm dehydrated. I sure had better carry around this bottle of water. There's a difference being dehydrated and wanting something to drink. And I'm just sharing with you the mental side that goes in that. You can only do it so many times. And it would appear to me that Pereira has achieved his objective, not to mention the Daniel Cormier-Kane-esque feel of Pereira going to 185 pounds, which was to let 205 be Glover's while he was champion. And now that Glover is not sitting at the helm, it would look as though that deal could be revisited and rediscussed. And I'm just not sold on the idea that Pereira is going back to 185. I do believe if he goes to 185, I do believe that he fights Adesanya. But I do believe if he does go back to 85 and he does fight Adesanya, then we owe it to Pereira to tell the story for him that he's not, which is what drives him, what motivates him. Why is beating a guy 3 times not enough? Why is taking his championship away not enough? Why is taking his glory in his spot not enough? What would drive you and possess you to want to do it a 4th time?